Well, hello everybody and welcome back. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, Ivani Paoli. She goes by Evie, so we're going to call her Evie if that's okay. Welcome, Evie.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to you and to meet you. Amazing.
Well, the pleasure's absolutely mine. Your story is riveting on levels that nobody could possibly comprehend until we get there. You're a scientist. Where did your love of science come from?
I think I always liked to study. I was always curious, and I always like to understand how things work, and particularly when it comes to biology, to life, to nature. And I always like to understand the name of the molecules and how the biochemistry pathways come together, and what happens when we take food in, and what happens when like a species it's out, and like when how does a mass extinction occur, how did the dinosaurs disappear, like these questions always were like made me very curious to study and to try to understand how these things work, and what's the reasoning. So that's why I think I got into science, because of this curiosity.
Have you ever answered any of these questions?
I mean, there's a lot of connections, and like as more as you know, you can get like better understanding of what the causality of things is, and how things come together. But like the entire answer, I don't think we have it like as a humanity still.
Right. Do you have a great enough understanding to kind of solve your curiosity? Because I agree, we never get there. There's no end game, but the joy is in the journey. Like that, if you get this rush from chasing, right? Chasing the answer.
For me, in my journey to know like about biology, I got more satisfied when I understood the connection of the microbiome, when I started to study the microbiome and understand how it influences our life, and what is good for the microbiome in our gut and what is not. And when I took the permaculture design course when I was living in San Diego 2 years ago, I understood how the microbiome of the soil is important to produce nutritious food. And I just like, because I like food and I like to know how food can influence our well-being and our health in general, and protect us from chronic diseases. I just made the link that the microbiome that is good for the soil, and which is necessary to produce nutritious food, is also like these same foods are the ones that are essential for our well-being, for our health, to keep us in the best shape we could ever be. And it just like this connection just made like, for instance, like my big answer today would be like the lifestyle that we have, and how we connect to Earth through what we eat every day, what it's at the tip of our fork every single day in every single meal, how this impacts. And like when I understood the connection that happens between like the way food is produced and all the reaction chain it causes and the way it is produced, and also the social changes and everything that is connected with that, I saw that as a common ground, as a common language. Then I was just like, wow, okay, let's dig a little bit more into this. So that's my next step in the journeys of my interest, what I'm pursuing.
Have you had those moments with science? Have you had those like real aha moments? Those, like, they call them God moments, like real, they'll Could
Right.
you share something like that?
Yeah, one of them was actually like this connection I just mentioned about like with the microbiome and studying that, and how it also interacts like with not specifically in one of the experiments that I was doing, but like in the understanding I've got and like putting the dots together, and also like how besides the microbiome, how it interacts with our hormones and then with our mitochondria and how our organism and our molecules talk to each other. This was like super, like it was life before and after this realization. When it like theoretically you know like these things happen, but when you really understand it, it really like the key is turned, like there is a switch that is it's turned
The
and
connection is made.
the connection is made, and then you really see it in everything. It's a beautiful moment. Yeah.
And so, was that moment, that specific moment that you're referring to, was that like an educational thing, like in a classroom when something was explained to you in a way, or in a lab where something just unfolded and you go, "Oh, that's it, I get
Right.
it."
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a class, in the permaculture design class, because I already had like all this molecular biology background, and studying the molecules and how the biochemistry pathways they happen inside of our bodies, how they happen in disease situations, and what is the normal and what's not. And then I never saw it from a food production side of the equation. And then I just took this course because I was like I had nothing to do, and I just was collecting another certificate, because I I do that when I don't have anything to do. So I
It was
was
a
collecting.
boring Wednesday, so I decided I'll be a scientist. You know,
Yeah. So I was just collecting this other certificate, and I was just like, wow, okay, I'm onto something here.
where did the love for science come from? I mean, how old were you when you kind of realized that this is something you wanted to pursue?
Not specifically science, because I was not too much in contact with science. I was born in a super tiny city in the state of Santa Catarina here in Brazil, and it's like 5,000 inhabitants, small school. But my parents, they were always very eager to educate us, to give us good education, and for us to have access to everything that we could know in our lifetime. So, and they did their best into it. So I think curiosity came from there, because when me and my sister, for instance, we are four at home, and me and my oldest, no, my sister that is right after me, she's like 2 years younger. We went with my mother to in her classes when she was going to the university. She's a linguist, and like we were always like in this university setting and learning and going with my father on these hospital conferences when he got to the capital of the state, and he was taking us with him. So we were always exposed to a lot of things that these young kids are not, at least there they were not usually exposed to all of these things. So I just like created this curiosity, and I think like this rich background on it's just like feeling the ground for the dots to be connected later.
Your dad taking you around, your mom taking you around, like you said, the exposure. Did
Right.
that give you a real tremendous advantage in coming from a small town?
Yes, definitely, definitely. We were like, I always liked to study, like beside on top of everything, and we did pretty well at school. Yes, and it was sometimes it was easier for us to understand certain things.
I'm going to assume it obviously had to
Right.
give you a greater appreciation for furthering education and
Yes, I never imagined like not taking a degree, not going to do my PhD, not doing a postdoc. This was always something I dreamed of. Yes.
right, but this was not normal for your peers.
No, no. Like today they have beautiful families, they have their house, their jobs, like very stable lives, like nothing like I don't.
Were they able to dream the way you were able to dream? Like when you were a little girl, seeing that, oh wow, when I'm 16, 17, 18, 19, I can be going to a university. I can look even beyond Brazil. Never
Right.
mind this little town. I could look beyond, and really see things as
Right.
truly being possible.
I don't think so, actually. And also, like, as things were happening, like this vision broadened. Like when I was in the small town, I wanted to go to the capital of the state. Like this was my limit at this point in life. And then when I went to the capital, I took my degree here, and then I saw other possibilities. Then I went my first time to the U.S. to study at Princeton for 2 months. I stayed there, and
Really?
yeah, it was super cool. And this opened my vision, my sense of what was possible, and I started to dream bigger. It all happened on the go as well. It was during my graduation, and I met this professor from Princeton in a conference here in Brazil on drug design and molecular biology in Rio, and it was the same area of research. And then he did say that he had like a position open in his lab, and I could spend a couple of months there if I wish, and to learn more about what they are doing there.
Did you understand the prestige that Princeton carried?
No, no, I didn't. Yeah,
Like,
I found out when I arrived there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is cool. Yeah,
is it so you weren't intimidated by it at all?
no,
That's great.
yeah.
That's really good. And was your English? You were fluent in English too when you did that?
Time not it was not so good. It was just like science based, because I was reading a lot of publications, a lot of things about science, talking about science in English. But like I couldn't communicate in a personal level, like to really make friends besides of the science talk.
So was that an advantage in a sense because it kind of limits your social
Yeah.
ability, right? So you kind of have to focus more on just the work. Does science in general does it transcend language? So whether you're fluent in English or somebody's fluent in Portuguese,
hmm
if you're in a conversation with that person and you don't really understand each other on a like social conversation,
Right.
can the science be enough? Can you
Yes.
explain to
Yes.
somebody without
Yes.
understanding their language what you're trying to convey?
Yes, because like the scientific language is, I mean, like the vocabulary, it's different from the day-to-day life. So that's why I had more vocabulary, scientific vocabulary than social vocabulary.
Because if you're playing beach volleyball and
Right,
your partner, your
right,
teammate doesn't speak your language and you don't speak their language, you can
right.
still be a great team.
Yeah,
Because
definitely. Yeah,
okay,
that happened. That happened a lot actually. When I was living in Chicago, we had like this volleyball team, and yeah, that happened.
can you explain to me without without me understanding science that much how does science transcend in the same way of music and sports?
The common language in science is English, so that's the only language that we speak. Like even like when we work with Portuguese scientists, people here
The
from Brazil.
scientific terms are English.
Yeah, scientific terms are in English, and everything it's used in English. So English is the common language in science.
Well, that kind of really solves the whole problem right there. So everybody
Yeah,
is speaking the same language. Oh, all right.
exactly. That helps a lot.
What was your childhood experience?
I'm the oldest of four girls at my home, so growing up in a small town, more rural town, it was like the center, like the villa. It's more like a villa, like small town with 2,000 people, based on rural economy. People were growing their own food. And my mom was a teacher at the school. My father was the director of the hospital, so they had like very nice positions in the city. So they were always involved in the community and everything that happened there. They were central people in the community, and we were following all of that. So we were four children and living in the very epicenter of the city. Like our house was here, the school was there, the hospital was here, the church was here, and the bakery. So we were like in the epicenter of everything that happened there. So it was like it was quite interesting, yeah. But in a lot of contact with nature, going to the river at the on the weekends and camping and all of that.
I was fascinated with your love for science. You've kind of really evolved into this spiritual woman. You know, you've incorporated so much spirituality, and often that's a real obvious contradiction.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I was raised as a Catholic, and we had to go to the church every Saturday, and go to the catechism, and all of this traditional small town religious life. All this religious traditional stuff, all of that. I had all of that when I growing up, but I never really find the meaning in that, so I just did it because it was kind of mandatory. Otherwise the father would go to school and grab us there and get us by the hand to go to the catechism, like all these things. It was like a part to belong to the society. You were kind of obliged to participate in everything. So after that, I just started to study biology, and then I was more in touch with science and scientists. And as we all know, like scientists are much detached from spirituality. I connected to that because it really didn't make sense for me. Anything of that I was exposed to in religion, and just like I'm always curious and trying to find the whys, and I couldn't find an explanation as just because, it's always just, yeah, you are not able to question much. And then it was just like, okay, I go with the atheist because at least science can answer some questions, and yeah, and based on my peers as well, the people that were surrounding me, we were all in this atheistic atmosphere. So we didn't talk at all about religion.
Are you familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yes. Uh-huh.
How do you feel about him?
I think he does a great job on popularizing science and this connection with young people, and he also gives a beautiful narrative for science.
Yeah.
So I love his work. Love
Yeah.
that.
The reason I ask is not to question him. I don't know enough about science to question.
Right.
But normally, when things become commercialized,
Right.
it gets watered down, and the truth kind of gets lost somewhere. The authenticity
Right.
gets kind of compromised at some point.
Right.
Does that happen when science comes out to the forefront? Like, he's kind of an ambassador for making
Right.
science cool.
Right.
It's kind of cool to be a geek, cool
Yeah.
to be smart.
Yeah.
That was, and he's a real on the forefront for that, a real ambassador for that.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
So, but does any of the science itself get compromised because it gets brought a little more mainstream?
Yeah, it depends on who the scientists are. Yeah, that happens. We can see like mainly like in the food industry. Why do we see so much confusion? Like why sometimes coffee is good, why sometimes it's not, why sometimes dairy is awesome for you, what sometimes it can kill you and cause cancer, and sometimes protein is good and sometimes it's not. It's a lot of. We have like a lot of funding issues and stuff, like whoever pays for the research wants to get their
Results
view
their way.
of the true that happens for sure. Like in science you can generate the results you want more or less depending on how you design the experiment. Any answer you want, you can generate data for that depending on how you design the experiment. So like a lot of ethics issues go into science, you're gonna
Unbelievable, right?
exactly, it's unbelievable. It's like in everything you can, and in science it's not different, because like it's humans and humanoids, you know, like we are still humanoids, and some people sell themselves for money and for, you know, it's just like true is what you create. You can choose the version of the true you want to work for.
Is what we're talking about right now what kind of drew you to be less enthralled with the science and now to be even more inquisitive to see what else is out there, which was
Right.
kind of some
It
spiritual journey?
definitely made me more conscious to get to understand these things, because like it's part of the questioning of the system of everything. And I think it's a systems problem because of the way science is funded, you know. It's and then you have to design studies that also that this is another problem. You have to design studies that are going to get funded, so you cannot like shoot on the stars, you know. You have to be like more uh, kind of
Political.
reinventing the wheel as well, you know. Like you cannot have like only negative results, because depending on your theory, you have to do. You are not guaranteed you are going to have positive results, you know. And to be funded, you kind of must guarantee to the funding agencies that you are going, yes, to get positive results. And like it's not like that for the truth, you know. You're asking the questions, but your hypothesis could be wrong, you know, and you are not allowed to be wrong, kind of thing. So many scientists, because of the funding, they keep playing safe as well. You know, that's something. And also like in it compartmentalizes in some specific areas, you know. And scientists, they cannot go wild about what they think and about go truly to the questions that they are more interested in, because they have to play it safe also.
And does that go against your grain? Because to be a passionate person
Mhm.
and then to be controlled by, it's almost like walking through life as a zombie from 9 to 5,
Right,
and then you want
right,
to come out, you want to break out of that confinement
right.
almost, right? So is that a conflict for you?
Yes, as well. I was just like learning how science works and how the system works, you know, like because you take it takes time for you to understand how things actually work when you are passionate about the questions, and then you understand how the system works is different, and it's kind of a shock. And then you are on a PhD thesis that you have to defend. You otherwise you have to pay back your salary, you know, if you don't defend. So you are stuck there for 4 years. And also, but like what really made me come flip the coin a little bit, to go not to stay in the academic life and not to stay like in this portion of science, is that I found it urgent to act, not only study, because I understand that for this stage in our human development, we already know a lot of the things that we should be doing. So we need more people actually trying to bridge the gap of from knowing to doing. I think I could not do it if I didn't know it. So I think it, yeah. So I think it was very important, the part of the knowing, you know, understanding everything. And I was eager to know, like let me know everything, and just like everything that is related to health and lifestyle and basically health. It started like with human health, and then I took biology, and I'm trying to connect like this human health with the environmental health. And I saw a common ground of this equation, and I see that one thing is the same for the other. It's all the same solutions. So that's why I'm like very fond and very eager to go this direction I'm choosing now. And like building on this regenerative lifestyle, and how we can change our behaviors like on a daily basis to actually have an impact in the world and in all the problems that we are facing here. Because the solutions are not complicated. The solutions are super simple, actually. And we try to make everything to look very complicated, so we seem smarter, you know.
One of the things that I found fascinating about your story is that you went into the rainforest, into the jungles with the
Right.
indigenous tribes.
Yeah.
Talk about that. You look at you light up
Yeah.
when you even think
Yeah,
about
I
it,
know.
right?
It happened last November. It was my first time in the Amazon forest here in Brazil. I'm a Brazilian, but like as many of the people here in the country, we don't know the Amazon forest. So I went for the first time in November to do an agroforestry immersion with Renature and my friends from Preta Terra, and we worked with indigenous people from. Actually, the Amazon has like more than 2,000 tribes there.
Right.
Yeah, communities of different ethnias of indigenous people. So we were able to come in to have like this immersion with three of these different groups, and we exchanged like how our knowledge about agroforestry and how to make it like in a larger scale, and they shared their way of doing things, and it was super nice to see the interactions and how we could teach them and they could teach us. It was like an exchange in a very deep way.
When we're talking about medicine, medicine's not that evolved. I mean,
Right.
medicine goes back how many years? Maybe what 100?
Hmm.
What? How many? How far back would it go? Where
Yeah, I think more or less that. I don't
I
recall the
mean, like
number.
pharmaceutical type
Yeah,
medicine. I'm not
yeah,
talking, but
right.
these tribes, this is where
Hmm.
we got all the information from. Was
Right,
the witch doctors and stuff, right?
right,
They were
exactly.
the shamans or whatever
Right.
they were called, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like depending on the tribe, they are called the shamans. In the Amazon forest, they are called the shamans or the pages in the Indian tribes here, and they have the ethnobotanical knowledge of the plants and how to use that, and like just by observing them, like you can learn a lot. And this is the first medicines were created, and the first experiments were very inspired by this traditional knowledges, and then it was put it to the test when the labs were like in pharmaceutical companies, for example, like the plants were put into test, like the compounds were separated, and to see which one of the compounds of the certain plant was the active compound for that, which the Indians claimed that was good, kind of thing. Yeah, inspired a lot of research. Yes.
When you said about knowing and doing,
Hmm.
when you were actually in the jungle with these tribes, was
Right.
that was that the ultimate as far as the highest point you could be in your experience up till today, as
Right.
far as actually doing?
Actually, that was like all hands on, you know, like we were like planting trees, planting pineapples, nuts, Brazilian nuts, and all of these other acai and all of these other tropical fruits, and working with these communities and connecting with them. That was definitely one of the nicest experiences on doing something. Yes, that definitely. And connecting people that are on the ground, you know, like and make people understand and change their habits. Like even if it's only one habit, and just make them go to the farmers market on a weekend once in a while. That's doing right.
It
Yeah.
truly is. But how
Mhm.
much did that reinforce your quest for your spiritual place?
It was beautiful because after that immersion, like I spent another couple of weeks just traveling through the Amazon on the rivers and getting to know other people that live there, and learn with them and how they live their daily lives connected with the forest, and how they get their how they survive based on the forest, which is super interesting. And definitely that was like I started to connect the dots on what I know and what my place is, like on in this big equation, what I can actually do to make a difference. Kind of, yeah, it helped to connect the dots, which I find like it's not by chance, like I actually believe it is guided by, it's not random, let's say. I'm getting to to believe in that like it's random but not so random.
No, I think you were right before. It's not. It's
Right.
not. It's random to us as human beings. It's random when you're confident in your belief system, whatever it is. I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what you said. Was that these things that seem coincidental?
Mm-hmm.
I never believed in coincidence. I used to hear
Right.
people go, and every single thing was spiritual. Like there are no coincidences. I was going, Jesus,
Right.
here we go again. It's all a fucking coincidence. Okay, stop with this. There are no. You hear
Right.
a song on the radio, and it was like, oh my God, it
Right.
it was done just for you.
Right.
But to me, I just found it over dramatic and just
Right. And sometimes it is like, like sometimes people use it to like as an excuse, and like they use it like there are always extremes, like either too much or too little. I like the like the middle part.
you
As
know what I think it is. I think sometimes you get into these kind of um, whether it's in my experience, it was like in getting into recovery, which was
right.
just to get sober, right? So a lot of
Right.
people are in this world that I had to become part of, right?
Mhm.
And and eventually I chose to become part of. For everybody comes in for different reasons, and not
Right.
everybody comes in necessarily with a real serious agenda. And often it's people are in some kind of journey out of loneliness, out of boredom, out of whatever. So sometimes it just becomes like a social.
Right.
And again, I can speak for myself because I was guilty of that at times too.
Right.
So I wasn't really plugged in. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid and buy the whole package. But part of this stuff made some sense, and it was all certainly better than the way my life was going. But
Right.
the sincerity, you kind of learn the things to say that other people say, the buzzwords and the lingo and the
Right.
rhetoric, and it's really not that sincere. I know in my case it certainly wasn't. In a
Right.
sense, it was, and it might
Mhm.
have been as sincere as I was capable of being
Right.
at that period of my life.
Right.
But what I can see now and what I saw then are two different visions.
Yeah, and like you were saying, like every person has their own path, and every
Right.
person has their reasons to start to assess this kind of knowledge. Like sometimes it's just for belonging, and then it's when it's I think it's just like less genuine, because like people just want to belong to make part of a community, and
Yeah.
not because they really felt the urgency of, but whatever, like, and it's just like what brings them in, and it's just
Right.
like the starting point, right? And but life changes after you touch on these things, and it's it's interesting, you know.
It is because one day something happens, and you know everything is going to look different.
Mhm.
Like the glasses that we once wore
Mhm.
are no longer going to help our vision. Now we need to get new glasses because things are going to appear different from a certain
Right.
point on. Right now,
Right.
where you are at a point in your life, where are you at with your spirituality? Where is that part of you at now as we speak?
I think now I am like in the middle, like, because I was like in the beginning of my bringing up, I was it was mandatory for me to go in the spiritual direction, but I was not like super convinced of it. So I rebelled and I went to the other side with the atheism and agnostic, like
Yeah.
being very harsh on people that did believe, like including my family. I was like super harsh with them at some points because they still went to church, and I was just saying like, what is this going to like? Do you believe like in these fairy tales? You know, like in sort of things. Like I was like in this stage as well, and now I think I'm like here in the middle, which I can discern like what what is what can be answered and what like more conscious about the limitations of what we can know and what we can't, and like kind of feeling, if you can say, like feeling like the influence and reading the signs of the universe kind of thing, you know, like because you also like if you pay attention, that's another experiment I like to do. Like I like to have my life as an experiment as well. So yeah, everything in my life, like people say it's good. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Like let's see if it works. Let's see what it changes and kind of thing. And I'm kind of experimenting with the signs the universe gives me.
Ultimately, it's a human experience that we're having, so it comes down to emotion.
Right.
You know, so intellect aside, you're still gonna hurt.
You know, I always like intellectualize emotions as well. Like I want to try to understand what it like how emotions. I was told that emotions are responsible for our well-being, for creating a lot of diseases, and I was just like, that's not true.
No, I
That's
don't think that. I don't think that is true.
but now I know it is. You know
No,
why?
I
Because
disagree.
like, emotions create chemicals in your body, and these chemicals they work in pathways in your body, and they turn on. Emotions turn on biochemical pathways in our body, and
Is
this
it?
is
Is it?
emotions connect to our body, and this is indeed why, like, this is
Wait a minute.
indeed
Time
why
out. Am I trying to argue with a scientist? Am I out of my mind? But well, it just dawned on me. What am I doing? I'm in over my head here. All right, I surrender. I quit.
No, Caribbean, this kind of way, which like I was just like, no way, like there is no way emotions
But is it
have
emotions? Here's my
played,
question: Is
you
it
know.
emotion, or is it us trying to control our emotion? Ah,
That's a good one, and actually, yeah, definitely. And stress is the thing that stress it's like a physiological reaction to emotions, right? Like if you are feeling fear, you're gonna trigger your stress hormones, and this is going to create like you are going to be ready to fight or flight. And we are, as humans, like in this society as it is today, we are in fight and flight mode all the time, so we are chronically stressed. That's why we are fatigued, and we get like adrenal fatigue and all of these things, because we are always in fight or flight mode. We are always in this stress, permanent stress mode, like permanent, like this basal stress levels that we are, and this is triggered by emotions of fear, of despair, and all of that. And it's just like, when do we enjoy moments of joy, happiness, pure love, you know, like all of this, like being at comfort and at ease with who we are, with people that are around you, and almost like in a daily basis, and like people, as at least the people I know, it's not it's the common thing is like you're stressed and you don't have these moments as much.
these are my favorite conversations. This is a treat, in a sense, to talk to somebody like you that
Mhm.
is so intellectually
Right.
sophisticated on that level, but also so down to earth and so inquisitive about the same things I am.
Hmm.
It really comes down to our human experience.
Right, exactly.
If you can just comfortably be secure enough in yourself
Right,
to just express your emotions as they are when they are,
right,
you are definitely going to eliminate a lot of that stress. But
Exactly.
you can't outsmart that one. Your father time, he's never lost.
Exactly. And it's just like we were talking the other day about the importance of breathing, like breathing is a paradox in itself. Breathing saves you, gives you oxygen, but it also kills you at the same time because it creates free radicals that are going to kill your cells and produce cancer. Like it's very controversial. It's like the paradox is right there. You need it for living, but also it makes your body fail at some point. There is no way out.
That
That's why we have to use like our emotions to kind of as a like what I'm trying to do, like to use this as a thermometer to see where we are at. Because like there are so many people that have a healthy diet, they exercise a lot, and they still get cancer. They still get like a lot of die young,
yeah,
from chronic diseases, and that's not all. Like it's important to have a healthy diet. It is important,
right.
essential to exercise, but it also like sometimes like that's always taken care of, but like our emotions are overlooked, like like nobody teaches us that, like and it's something that it's so important.
Like, how important is faith to you? Faith in whatever it is that you choose to or don't choose to believe in.
I think faith is something that I always had, but I like during this I call it another thing, like I was always like call it goals. I didn't want to use the word faith.
Of course, it's not tangible.
Yes, and in science you have to be able to explain
Well,
everything.
okay, so, and I understand that that's the prism that you're seeing things through, right? But at the
Mhm.
same time, you were raised to have faith. You questioned your faith. Where are you
Right.
at right now in your life right now with faith?
I think that's the one thing that makes you keep going besides of everything, besides like on top of every struggle, it still makes you keep going forward. It's just like this knowing that it's gonna be different at some point and it's gonna work out. All it's gonna pay off, like kind of like this trust. It's like faith, trust that everything is gonna be okay at the end and it's gonna pay off. And at least I'm gonna learn something from that, from every situation.
We kind of understand a little bit about you professionally. We got a little bit about you personally. We don't know anything yet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot. Like every person is a universe, like it's
We're not talking to any person right now. We're talking about you. And as far
right,
as your journey and your life, we
right,
haven't even begun.
exactly.
Right?
Like the biggest chunk of it is yet to come. Yeah.
It's such a delicate area for me to go to,
Hmm.
but I have to say that we spoke about this, and there's a level of admiration I have for you for the way you were able to just express and talk openly about personal trauma
Right.
that you've experienced. And again, I'm always impressed with grace.
I went to Chicago on my fourth year PhD to do a PhD internship at a pharmaceutical company called AbbVie. And I lived in Evanston, which is like the
Yeah.
up north. Yeah,
Evanston, Illinois.
exactly. Such a beautiful place, charming and tiny and close to Chicago, which is beautiful. Just makes my heart, vibrate just to think about it. It's beautiful. I have so good memories from that place. I learned how the real work of research works, like how that goes and how it is, how the science setting is in a huge company where there is no struggles with funding for research as we had at the university here in Brazil, like huge difference. So I learned a lot. It was like mind blowing for me. So it was great experience. And at the end of my stay there, like the last 3 months, I got to know Tony. which is part of the next chapter, the chapter of my life. Yeah, and then we fell in love, and just like a movie story, like this very cute story, and we just started a relationship. I went back to Brazil. I brought the technology I learned at the pharmaceutical company to our university, University of São Paulo, and I was at that time postdoc consultant here for a year, just while I was looking for a job in the US to come back to be able to be with Tony and like just have a life together.
No, you're head over heels. This is different than everything else, right?
Right.
He's not just a guy.
No, it's not just a guy. In October, the year before, I lost my father. He died on a heart attack. And it was like super sudden, and it was like the first. I did lose other people in my life before, like that were very close, like my grandparents, uncles, but like that one hit me like nothing else. It's just like, damn, like I miss my father.
Yeah, yeah. You had a close relationship with your dad, and
Exactly.
have you ever even dated a guy that was able to kind of measure up to?
With my
Yeah. Would you understand to be a male presence in your life? He's not just because he's your dad, but because your dad's a special guy.
right. At that point, no, like just like boys, like regular boys. And at that point, I had a boyfriend, and I just finished that relationship in order to be with Tony as well. And yeah, we started to talk, like actually our first talks were about afterlife and all of that I was studying because I just lost my father. Like I was reading a lot about that, and like talking with Tony was just like going. I could go into another level of comprehension, and like he went to me like super and super deep topics about life, about what life is all about, and like these deep conversations we are having here, kind of thing. Like where you can and the other person corresponds to that, and also like he was able to understand what I was going through, and in a deep level that I could not talk to with anybody else that I knew at that time. So we just started to talk about that, and we had like similar interests. We like sports. We like to travel and to get to know languages and places, and it was just like super fun, like super. At the same time as it was super deep conversations as well. Like we had we could go through every single level, like of interaction, like also like very childish things.
Having just lost your dad,
Mm-hmm.
that you're vulnerable. I mean, let's say emotionally you're very vulnerable, right?
Definitely.
To come across somebody to kind of, because you mentioned you explained to me previously, this is your soulmate. And
Right.
when somebody says that, you kind of, that's almost something that you kind of feel like pretty
Mm-hmm.
soon. I mean, that doesn't grow on you. That doesn't, usually this kind of,
Right.
right? So when you're in a vulnerable state like that, you're kind of available in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody's able to earn your trust with the vulnerability. That's the thing that allows you to stay vulnerable. That allows you to grow close.
Right.
It allows you to really kind of explode together.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so. But do you think a lot of it has to do, like, life unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to pay attention to what, like when we said before, is it a coincidence? Do you think this is a coincidence?
Can be, but for me, like as I make sense of things, and like knowing now after everything happened,
Right.
like no coincidence at all. Like this person was essential in my life and is going to be essential in my future.
Not just the connection between you and him, but the connection of when you and him met.
Exactly. When it was, and why it was, and what our conversations were about. it's just like mind blowing.
It is. It truly is. I mean, I wasn't even there, and I think it is.
Right. Yeah, and everything I started to question, like we together, we started to question our career paths, our choices, and we were building on creating a very different lifestyle, like, and creating things together that were nice to humanity at the same time as we were able to make a living. We could help people on the way, like, and instead of staying like me in the lab, like very far away from interacting with people and having an impact like many years from now, perhaps, maybe never. So we just wanted to like go from the knowing to the doing, It was time like actually to get our hands dirty, like to actually do something. We had like this urgency, like not only being like knowing and being good at what we do for work, but use this.
Some people say when they meet the right person or they meet that one special person, it's
Right.
luck. You know what I
Right.
heard of the definition of luck?
Uh,
95% preparation and 5% opportunity.
right.
Right? So it's
Right.
all of this you living your life.
Right.
And when this happens, it happens. That's when they say it happened. You didn't initiate it. Nobody. You guys came together. This is a phenomenal story, and now we're at the very beginning of it. So
Right.
go from there. So now you're down in Brazil, and he stayed in Chicago.
He stayed in Chicago. Yes, he had like some things to finish there with his family and with
And
work.
You're head over heels. He's head over heels.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a kind of long distance thing in that moment.
Yeah, a year long distance thing, and we saw each other every 2 months more or less. We meet like in different places in the world, like just traveling, having fun, and yeah, and we did that for a year until I got a PhD postdoc position at UCSD, which was like dreamland for us, like to be able to live in California, like was just like wow. Because I tried to get to Chicago as well, but like in my area of research, which was neglected.
It's not just Southern California either. It's La Jolla.
Right. You can get better than that, right?
I don't know if you can. I sure need to hear about it. That's
Right.
pretty good. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were super, super excited like that this was happening actually, and finally we got.
Did you dream of stuff like this?
No, never ever. So it was like living a dream, but like I'd never had.
It's like living a lucid dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are living in La Jolla like for 3 months. 2 months we did. We went by car all the way from Chicago with our stuff to San Diego. It took us 3 weeks to get there. Stopped in every single park that we saw in our way. It was super fun, like with a car full of our stuff in the back. Like very like at night to sleep, we would put everything on top of the car and then cover it and then sleep inside the car, like then then the other day, like just moving everything back inside and just move on to the next stop. And it was beautiful, beautiful.
You got to see a side of America that a lot of people that live here their whole lives never see.
Right.
They're wide open. You see the Grand Canyon and
beautiful, beautiful country.
Breathtaking.
Damn it.
Yeah.
It's just like so breathtaking. It's beautiful. And then we arrive in San Diego, live there for a month in an Airbnb until we find our place in La Jolla. And I started to work. And yeah, we were just like adjusting to our new realities. Like he left his job, he's training for triathlon and seeing what he's going to do as next step for his career, kind of thing.
You guys are like two hippie scientists.
I don't think. Yeah, I know. Like everything is moving smoothly. Like on the weekends, we go to the outdoors, which we love to explore. We had a Highlander, and we always packed it with food, with the bed. Like we did sleep in there. It's just like almost like our house, you know, like
Yeah,
we some
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, and in one of these adventures, we went to the Sequoia National Park. This was in May. It's gonna be a year, 2 years now, 2 years ago. And on that day, like we went to the Sequoia because like I always saw it like as a dream place to go since the first time I saw these trees in a geography book, like in a geography class in this little town. And like he was like, okay, okay, like this weekend we are going to fulfill your dream, your fifth grade dream. So there we went to the Sequoia National Park, had a beautiful Friday and Saturday there, just walking among the trees and these beautiful trails, just like breathtaking, having fun and having like deep conversations about everything, you know, like adjusting things, like having very important conversations as a couple to move forward as well, like with like having lives coming together, right? Because you always have to make some adjustments when this kind of things happens. It's huge, right?
It's kind of all about compromise at this point.
Exactly. So yeah, so we have very important conversations about that, and it was beautiful couple of days. It's just like paradise, just seeing animals and like this beautiful place. It's like being in a dream, in a like a dream inside of a dream kind of thing. And on Sunday we just wanted to do, like, since we were there, like to take a last trail, to do a last trail just for during the afternoon, so we could leave at the end of the day and arrive in San Diego before the sunrise kind of thing. And in this trail, we reached a point where there was snow still on the top of the mountain because of the difference in the altitude. It was already summer was starting, but there was still snow on top. Yeah, and when we were there, 20. It's not that he dripped, like the snow underneath his feet just fell down, and he fell down the mountain. And this was the last time I saw him. Yeah, and then I just like spent the next 24 days not knowing, just like I was sure that he did survive that, but I couldn't know until the other day what happened. The rescue was there super fast. There were climbing people there that were able to go down the mountain to see, but they couldn't because there was fog already that time of the day, like later in the afternoon. And the other day I got the news that he didn't survive that fall, and that completely changed my life again.
What was it like for you to walk back down that trail? What's going through your head?
At that moment, I was sure that he survived, so I was just like out of there as fast as I could, just running, just got my shoes off to run faster and faster, you know, like because the shoes were heavy. And then I just got help, and the help arrived there not too long after it happened. So the only thing I could think about was just like, damn it, please survive until I get help. Please survive. Please be okay until I find help. And I could find help as like super quickly, actually.
Were you questioning your faith? Like, were you? I mean, these are God moments. I mean, these are like, if you're going to talk to God, now's the time, right?
Exactly.
Did
Exactly.
you?
Course, like the first thing I was just like, I could not accept the fact that, like, it was not even going through my head, the
Yeah.
fact that he would not survive such a thing. I was just like praying all night that he was, you know, like kept safe until the next morning when the helicopter could go there again, just to make it through the night. So
But you're on pure adrenaline at this point, right?
that
And what are your thoughts? Like, are you talking to God or whatever it is? Or
actually, At this point, no. At this point, I was very practical. I never knew that I would react this way, but when I'm exposed, now I know that when I'm exposed to something very extreme, I'm able to focus, and I keep a very sharp mind. Like I think on what I have to do, like
Yeah.
the lot things, the practical things, and I was not thinking a lot about desperating, about emotions. I was like super focus. Like every drop of energy that I have was directed into getting help. This was the only thing I was thinking about at this point. Like getting help as quickly as possible and just put all my energy running down that hill.
He had great survival skills, so there was a certain sense of confidence that you had that, listen,
Mhm.
he's, if anybody's going to be okay, he's going to be
Yeah,
okay. So
exactly. Because like in all of our other adventures, he was always ready. He was the one that prepared and double check the backpacks, like to make sure we have everything we need in case of an emergency and we don't forget anything. Like he was super, super conscious about what he has to do. And like when we arrived in San Diego, like he always wanted, like we always watched documentaries at night, like while having dinner and stuff like that, because we were both curious. We love to learn new things. And since we were going out on the outdoors many times, and that was the plan living in California to be out on the outdoors every weekend, we started to watch a lot of and he was a mountain lover, like he loved the mountain. If he did survive the fall, he would know what to do to survive until the morning. Yes.
you still can't sleep, or I mean, there's no way. So
Oh.
take us through that night if you can.
Yeah, so the rangers, they got like a psychologist to stay with me overnight and to be with me in case of I need. And she got me to a hotel, but I couldn't stay in the hotel. It's just like I took a quick shower and then I just like took my car and just went from one place to the other to see, like, in case he survives and comes down to the street, I'm there to help. So this was my thinking. So I spent the entire night just like driving back and forth to, like, in case he shows up there, I'm there. So this was the night.
Yeah.
And in the morning, like I arrived like in the trail, like it was on the top of the mountain, and there was another trail on the bottom of the mountain, and then I just went there and took like I went to the end of the trail to call for him, that would give me some hope for if he's there, but I couldn't. And then the psychologist, the social worker came there, and then we went to the ranger station and stayed there until Tony's mom showed up there. She came all the way from Chicago.
Wow. When did you get the news they found him and recovered him, or what happened?
That next day, around 2 p.m.
So this is like Monday at two
Yeah,
in the afternoon,
2 p.m.
and I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah, it's a hard one to swallow, yeah, for sure. But it's reality, right? It's part of my story.
well, I mean, you have time between, and not a lot of it either. By the way, I mean, it's amazing that you can even be as graceful with this and generous enough to share your story, because it's this is as heavy as it gets. It's as heavy as it gets. How have you come to terms with it all?
With this, like in the beginning, I had like very good help from a friend here from Brazil. Like she's a therapist and she works with, she's a spiritualist as well. So I got a lot of these inputs in the beginning as well. And I just like, since I was studying that, like I was reading a lot about the spiritual life and life after death since my father passed away. So I already had like this the knowing, you know. So it was a little bit like on that side of understanding that this is not the end, that this is not forever separation. Like this was already something that I believe in, that I knew because of my father, like the experience with my father passing away. So I was a little bit more conscious about the spiritual part of it. But it was very, very tough because it was like me and him living there. It's like we were building our home. It was super, super tough to stay there. And then my sister brought me back to Brazil. I stayed here for a month, like with my mom and with my sisters. And then I wanted to go back there, and I didn't want to definitely like leave my stuff there and come here and stay here without being there and finishing there, because I wanted to stay in our home with our things, with things that made me remind him. So I went back. I stayed in San Diego for another year. And then I just finished my contract at UCSD. Instead of renewing it, I just decided to give me some time to grieve. And this is another thing that is a kind of a coincidence in my life, which is not a coincidence. My first job in a lab as a scientific trainee was in a lab which studied the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder in the immune system. So I knew it could be devastating. So I wanted to give myself the time to process this, to, like just not to commit to anything where I have to bury the feelings, to have to pretend that nothing is happening.
You know what I find absolutely remarkable? That you had that insight, because when something like that happens, I would think second nature to internalize it and maybe isolate and do so many things that are contrary to what you did.
Right.
And that's why people get stuck. The last thing we think of when we need to grieve is to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I don't want to impose on people, all these excuses we come up with. But what's remarkable is that you had the insight to understand the value of the process of just grieving, like
Right.
that you allowed yourself that. And on top of that, too, that you had, obviously, your mom, your sister, and your friend, because at this point in your life, you just lost not one, but the two
Right.
most important male figures in your entire life. And that's a lot for any woman to just have to come to terms with, for any person to come to terms with it. That's so much loss. For you to be able to see that clear,
Mm-hmm.
the importance of that, and not get swept away by the emotion, I should say.
Right.
Is
Yeah, and this was one thing that I didn't want to. This was one thing I didn't want to let happen, because it was starting to happen. Like to get drowned by emotions, and I just didn't want to let that happen for them, just because their lives were too precious for me to know, like to get lost in emotions and not be able to live a life to honor their life. Kind of, this was my thinking, like to be able to get out to the world again, to go after my dreams, to go after what I can do to make this place a better place. Like it's just like, okay, they are not here physically anymore, but they are helping me, and I can feel it. And then also like how can I honor them?
I thought about this often. Is that when somebody close to you goes, like, when they're gone, they're going to wherever it is that we go,
Right.
right? So I accept the fact that I'm never going to know what that is until I'm dead. So let's
Right.
focus on this. And if they were still here, there'd be those things that you would want to do with them and share with them.
Right.
And that those things, they pale in comparison to actually honoring their life by how you conduct yourself. It's still so early. This will be 2 years in May.
2 years in May, 13th of May. It was Mother's Day when it happened.
Do you think you fully process it?
No, I don't think so. Like, it's gonna be. It comes in packages, like some days are better than others. But I'm always trying to see what I can learn with that and what the lessons are. And one big lesson was that we are always thinking about the future, and worrying and stressing, and we never talk about somebody dying. We don't. That's the only thing that is certain is going to happen to every single one of us, and we don't even talk about it, and we pretend that this is never going to happen. Like, so we live as like we are never going to die. And like, one realization I came with is just like, you live much better when you are conscious that you are gonna be gone at some point, and you live every day as it was your last one. It's kind of cliche, but it changes everything.
They say that what happens is people have near-death experiences.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
every day is that, like, you live. Well, and people say this often too. That live your life like it's your last day.
right.
But it's not easy to do.
At all. Like, we are so engaged in many things that it's just like the main thing is just like, find your purpose, find whatever you really, really care about. Like, what's the legacy you want to leave behind? Like, how you want to be remembered by people, and like, by yourself. If you look at your journey on this planet, what would you like to be?
I'd
What?
like to do it again because this one fucked up. Excuse me.
Right.
I'd like another shot if you don't mind. If we were playing Jeopardy, I'd like to say, Alex, I'd like to go off the board and pick a new topic.
Yeah, maybe you're going to be able to do that, right?
You know,
Wow.
I don't know. And I don't know that I do know that I don't get yesterday back. I don't get to do it again. I have to assume that in order to just be productive. So,
Hmm.
live today and do the best you can. I mean,
Exactly,
like,
and it's paradoxical as well, because you cannot stop your life and only be thinking about this as well. Because, as you say, you're not going to be productive. You're not going to move your life forward. But at the same
yeah,
time, it's just like this fine tune. Like, you have to find this fine tune between uh, thinking about it, but also taking care of your life here at this moment.
you know what happens too is we all think that we're so important,
Hmm.
and we are. But when we're living our journey, it's our journey and it's our experience. So, of course, when we can be objective and kind of, life plays out. Like, as you get older, you just see things differently. Like, I couldn't see these things when I was your age that I can see now at my age. But
Right.
so much of this trauma, like, so many people experience it on some level. Here in 9/11, people got
Hmm.
devastated. Just with this coronavirus, I mean, people aren't here anymore. It's crazy, and it's so tragic, and it doesn't minimize your pain. It doesn't minimize the other person's pain, but sometimes when you can share your truth with
Hmm.
somebody else that's going through it, because you've been through it,
Right.
what a gift! And you can't get that gift any other way. So you
Right.
would never want to do this. You would never want to be in this position. But unfortunately, life played out this way.
Right.
And what can we do with our experience to try to, you know,
Exactly.
it's a silver lining in a really dark gray cloud, I guess.
Right.
But when you can do that, when when somebody has no hope,
Hmm.
if there's a woman out there,
Hmm.
right, who's experiencing what you went through,
Hmm.
right, nobody can bond with them like you can.
Right.
Nobody, like
True.
only you. And,
Hmm.
and you and you that's an instant, that's almost like a spiritual thing there, right? But
Right.
the comfort and the hope that you can give to somebody
Hmm.
is it's priceless.
Exactly.
Literally, it's
Yeah.
priceless.
And this, as human beings, we can give to each other. Like, you don't have to pay for that. And as more as you give this to others, there are others coming into your way, giving that to you as well. It's just a
Yeah, yeah,
cycle.
yeah, yeah. Yes, but you're right, and you know what? It's no, it's the same philosophy, the same principles that should be practiced in many areas of our lives.
Hmm.
But when you add those moments of that despair, I mean,
Hmm.
that's just when you're empty, when you're
Hmm.
broken.
Hmm.
Only you like what I think is broken.
Hmm.
You have your definition of broken. What
Right.
I how I define despair, you have yours now.
Hmm.
So but you know what that is.
Right. Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
when the tank is full, and when
Right.
the tank is empty,
Right.
and when you can kind of feel somebody else's despair or pain, or it's something that you can touch in a magnificent way
Right.
to be able to, because listen, there's nobody else that can come through and say, look, I did it.
Hmm.
You can do this. How do I know you can do it? Because I did it.
Hmm.
I did it. I'm doing it every day. I am doing it. I'm putting one foot. When my dad passed away, I had a hard time when he was sick. And I don't give a shit what people say. We knew he was going to die. He was sick, and he was
Right.
really struggling and fighting. And it's going to come. But I don't care how prepared you are.
Hmm.
You're never prepared. So, like in your dad's case and in your fiance's case, they were both sudden things, right? But even
Hmm.
if you knew they were coming, you still
Hmm.
can't be, when it happens. That moment happens when it's different. I don't think there's any
I was,
preparation you
I
could
was
have
just
for that.
talking today with a friend of mine. Like she just lost her father yesterday, and she was with him like since 2 years, like fighting a cancer, and she was there every single day, and she saw him deteriorating, and she's just like so devastated. She
Yeah.
did tell me like, even though I knew it, it is just like so much more painful than I ever imagined it would be, right? It's just like one of the things. It doesn't matter how prepared or not you are. You always have this hope that it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be. It's going to be postponed.
The only thing that helps, really, in my opinion,
Hmm.
is time.
Right.
There's no way. There's nothing, like, people can talk, and there are no words. People can talk all they want, and you know that they mean well, and but
Right.
there are no words. I mean, there's nothing gonna fix this. You know.
Exactly. Hmm. And you gotta give yourself like the permission to feel that and to be sad and
That's what's so remarkable. You did that.
I was just like so connected. And when something like that happens, it's just like so much easier to connect to your inner self, like when you just like sit down and listen and just like breathe, like you get so many answers. It's just like, and then it's another game. It's very, very interesting. It's very interesting. You, it's like you feel that person, like you feel the energy, you feel it coming through your words, like it's very interesting, it's very unique.
This situation, this relationship, is unique to you.
Hmm.
It is. There'll be nothing like this.
Yeah,
Like, whatever
definitely.
happens in your life, this will be just a special experience for you that is going to be unique to you.
Right.
Other people have theirs, but in
Right.
your journey, this is yours, and this is like, that's what we get to do. We get to do our
Right.
journey.
And when you were saying like you like to tell stories of people, it's just like I was listening into a podcast the other day about the importance to own your own story, like just to own it. It's my story. It's just like sometimes what we do is just like, oh damn, I will not assume something like that happened to me. I will never talk about it like we are ashamed or something like that. But no, just like the powerful thing about storytelling is to tell your own story and make it in a beautiful way, to see the beauty out of it as
Tell
well.
the truth. Just tell the
Hmm.
truth, the whole truth, as much of the truth as you can get to. Be
Right.
as vulnerable as you can, and
Right.
expressive as you can, and
Right.
that's what people resonate with.
Right.
People connect with that, because when you can share the stuff that's not so pretty,
Right.
especially somebody like you have a presence about you, right? So you're gonna walk in. Let's say you walk into a room, and like a high school, auditorium and you're going to tell your story. As soon as you walk on the stage, people are going to size you up. All these kids are going to size you up, and they're going to look at you, and they're going to have this image of you, right?
Mhm.
When you break it down and you share like real vulnerability, real real stuff, real adversity, how you dealt with this, and how your personal journey in such a way, such an exposing way. They didn't see that part coming.
Yeah, it's
that's
truly
that's
it.
mind blowing.
Yeah, it is. That's you never make friends like telling them how amazing you are, all your achievements and stuff. You're not going to like people are going to admire you, but there is going to be like a lot of like things that are not coming from the heart. And but when you tell them something that like a defect, like just try this, like just try an experience, then go and tell them, oh, I'm great on this, but I suck on this. Like when is the conversation gonna start? Like truly gonna start when you're really gonna bond. Like when you tell people what you suck at, like it's just like that. People like because we know we are not perfect, and when somebody tells us like they are perfect, it's just like they may want to show up as perfect people. It's just like you cannot see any true on that.
That's totally disingenuous. Here's the thing. We all want to project ourselves in this way. Like I can say honestly, I went through decades of my life, and my life was about I wanted you to know
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted you to know,
Right.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I projected myself a certain way. I did not know how, or I didn't really even understand why anybody would. Like, why would you put out, some negative things about yourself? Like why would you? There's a lot of in my life. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of stuff I'm not proud of, and this and that. But here's the thing: the more I held on to that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one holding on to it,
Right.
and I'm owning it, but I'm not really owning it. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
holding on to it. I'm like a hoarder,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I'm holding on to this so you can't see it. And
Right.
the freedom comes in. Listen, this is who I am today. Yeah, all
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff, it all happened. And
Right.
you know what? I think the greatest freedom personally is to be able to own everything,
Right.
or whatever it is,
It's
whatever it
like
is.
yeah, and it's like Gandhi says, like when your feelings, thoughts, words, and your what you do and what you are aligned, you're gonna be a happy person, right? But it is
Momentarily,
a
in that
process.
moment, because then they're
Like,
going to be unaligned before you know it.
exactly. So
I
you
think
have to
that's what it is.
take
I think that's
time.
that's what the journey is. The journey is
Exactly.
striving for those moments of alignment, because
Mm-hmm.
I always say it's like being in point A and here's point B, and there's one road that goes there. And my directive is just to go from point A to point B. But
Right.
suddenly, like I'm getting halfway to point B and I hang a turn.
Right.
And I don't know why. There's no really any plausible explanation for why I'm off course. I
Mm-hmm.
just find myself, this is the story of my life. I find myself way off course.
Right.
And then I gotta like, oh, why did I do this? And blame myself and blame
Right.
instead of there's only one thing that matters when you find yourself off course, and that's to get back on course.
Right.
You said something earlier when you were going through this turning point in your life that you showed real grace under fire. Like you knew how to just say, I got one mission in here. I'm like tunnel vision, like
Right.
nothing else. I I relate with that. I
Mm-hmm.
used to be the thing I was most proud of,
Mm-hmm.
actually. When I would call it when the shit hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Some people stand up and some people don't,
Right.
and you want to be one of the ones that do, and you do the best you can. But you can't think about it. You just got to get into gear. You just got to react.
Right.
But what you can't do is you can't sit there and not react.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pause. There's
Mm-hmm.
just react and trust. But because of what I was doing with my life, I became not that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much shame in that. You become a shell of who you were, and that's just not cool, no matter how you look at it. And I knew that. It didn't matter if you knew that or not. See, I don't want to show you that,
Right.
but I know that.
Hmm.
So I can't ever really be proud,
Right.
like really proud, right?
Right.
Authentically, genuinely proud. So
Right.
it's a whole game that's going nowhere.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is still like things we are learning as a society, like to be vulnerable to, because like before some years ago, like we were not even able to show vulnerability in front of
Never.
people. Like you are not allowed to feel any other, like we were talking about emotions. You were not allowed to feel any other emotion that wasn't happiness. It's just like you have to be happy, otherwise you're like get out of my way. Like if you're sad, you are not invited in. Like if it's like this obligation to be happy, and then you just put everything that is uh, on your soul that you need to work on, like you just put it under the carpet, and then that builds up. At some point you're gonna crash.
Yeah, it's too much for any one person to carry. It's just too
Yeah.
much. And you know what the problem is too? There's no reason to carry it. But we
Hmm.
have to see. So a lot of us have to learn that lesson, and that's not an easy lesson to learn.
At all. At all. Like at a personal development side, like I was only able to I'm only able to see the world as I see, because that happened. Like it's very painful,
Right.
it's very, but I would not be seeing the world with the eyes that have I have now, like maybe less positive. I don't know where I would be, like if
Right.
things didn't happen,
Yeah.
right? Because like it happened, and we are here now having this conversation, but I don't know what it would be if it didn't. Like maybe I would be like, I don't know, just like this lessons that make you like talk about emotions, talk about what is painful for you. But like another thing that I would like to invest my time in is for us to learn to understand our emotions in a like way earlier in our life, like to make this more important in our society, to talk about that, and teach our children how, like that there are many initiatives already, like to teach young children on contacting and identifying emotions, and how to deal with them. But it has to be like more, because we are emotional beings, right?
At the
Humans
end of the
are,
day, yes.
everything is based on that. And that's the only thing that we learn by experience. And it, like we could learn how to deal it, like by training as well. Like not only wait for stuff to happen or create situations of despair or things that you have to deal with it because you have no other option.
Your journey, your struggles spiritually, like I don't know, I wouldn't even say struggles, but you question it, which
Right.
by the way, I think is actually very healthy.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
It's yeah, but the forces that condition us to see things the way they want us, the last thing you want to do is question it. But I think it's very healthy.
Mhm.
Well, with everything being as it is, where do you stand with that now? I mean, you're evolving every day.
Yeah, it's like just trying to pay attention to what's around me and taking everything, like putting all my story together. Like I have like huge interest in health and the environment and how to put all of this together. I just like found this one thing that can connect everything, which is food. And then I just did some trainings with the FAO and Future Food Institute from Italy. Did like some trainings on that to get my like a little bit more knowledgeable about the role food plays in our society, and how to get people involved in this, like to have social transformation, health transformation, and how to build a better world using this as a common language. And then also working on transforming like this lifestyle choices, directing those into a healthier way, like for the environment, for our skins, for our bodies, like just to make it easier for people to navigate on this and to make better choices without even, like without even thinking about it that much, and just like making this transition as smooth as possible. And this is what I want to dedicate my life to, and it's just like what I'm doing, what I'm working on right now, working on the getting more training on the sustainable development goals and how use this into entrepreneurial ways, and how to create companies that use this, and how to work with companies for them to transform their business into something more sustainable. Where do they start? Like, for example, just like all of these small things, working with community as well. I just came back to live here in Porto Alegre. I'm just building community here. Got into this kombucha factory, and we work in this kind of community way as well. And having other, yeah, working with, super cool. Yeah, and working with a purpose-driven innovation ecosystem, getting connect with a lot of incredible people in every single part of the world that have these ideas, that are working in this direction, and just like see where it takes me next.
Are you hip to this whole like masculine, feminine energy concept?
Yeah, definitely. I've been learning about it a lot as well. Like I just went to a festival last year in October, I think. Yeah, in October in Bahia here, which was super interesting as well. And it was a lot about that, like a lot of talking about that, healthy masculinity, on healthy feminine energy, and how these come together to also like to create a better world, a better tomorrow.
Can you recognize your masculine energy?
Definitely.
In what ways? Because I see it so obvious.
Like
Yeah.
for the time I use that way more, like I put that mask, like I use that way more to thrive, like in science, to thrive like in this very masculine environment. Like you cannot behave like use your entire feminine energy in this environment. You have to wear your masculine persona sometimes to get
Well, you have to own it, right? I mean, you have to. You
all that.
have masculine and feminine energy in you, as I have masculine and feminine energy in me. As a man, I can tell you this. This was almost a traumatic experience when I had to face the fact that I actually am composed of feminine energy. I was just like, not me. You know?
Right.
It's a concept. Grasp an understanding of it. We're just better. I mean, I saw as you were talking, I'm seeing this. This is how I see it, and I don't know if there's a real definition of it. I think we get to perceive it any way we want.
Right.
You get to make your definition of it. It's almost, I don't know if there's a Webster's dictionary definition that it's not, right? So anyway, I think that as you were telling your story there about what you would like to, I see so much of this purpose-driven, focused. That's all masculine energy. That's a drive. I know what I want to do. I know there's a practical way to go about doing it.
Right. Definitely.
But then there's also a very passionate, a very compassionate, love-based place where you're coming from. And it's that balance. I think the magnificence is in, like you said earlier, that alignment. It's when we're in balance, alignment, same thing, right? When you can balance that energy to where you want it, and that can go moment to moment. You can adjust it all you want. It's like once you understand it, you can do what you want.
That's what life is all about. Like the only constant in life is change. So
Right.
so
Right.
you have to adjust all the time, and like at some moments in your life, you need to pick that feminine energy to get you through the situation. And sometimes like when you have to like a more practical thing or like a survival situation, you have to turn on your masculine,
Right.
you have to play with it.
Yeah, but the thing is, the first thing you have to do is to understand them, to accept it, to see it
Accept.
as that, not because these
Mhm.
words have, when you, to a woman can be offended if you refer to her as masculine, but you're
Right.
not referring to her as masculine.
Mhm.
You're saying that as a female,
Right.
you're composed of two energies, and as a
Right.
male, I'm composed of the same two energies. But
Hmm.
we get to, when you're empowered when you get to see it that way, and you
Exactly.
get to make the adjustments instead of being making the adjustments based on whatever your conditioning is.
Right. And this is the first thing that my therapist told me, like when the situation happened, like in the Sequoia National Park. After that, to the first thing to get through this, accept it. It's just like radical acceptance. Don't question it. Don't like don't keep in like keep the questions in your head. If what if I did that, would that have happened? Like it's not going to change anything that happened. It's just like the first thing you have to do to uh, get to a point of recovery from anything traumatic is to accept it. It's just acceptance. And same thing as with the masculine and feminine energy inside of us. It's just like we have to accept it and recognize it, right? Because all of us, we have it. And it's beautiful to see how we can play with them to make our flow, our boat in life to navigate better.
That's very eloquently put. I think sometimes though it's hard, like how blessed you were to have that therapist pointed out in those terms, because I mean, didn't you have to go through the emotions? Didn't you have to just wail? I mean, there's people cry, but when something like that happens, it's not even. It's like those emotions are just unleashed, and you
Mhm.
have to do that. You have to let that process happen, or
Exactly.
you're not being true to yourself if you don't. I mean,
Exactly.
but
Hmm.
that's we're conditioned to not do that.
Exactly. You are not even not allowed to do that, like to live in the society as it is today. So that has to change through emotional education.
I think that the way that emotional education takes place is doing exactly what you're doing right here, and just
Mhm.
sharing your truth in as genuine. And I'm going to use two different words here, but I think they both describe your experience, and how you described your experience was raw and eloquent. You don't waver from the truth, but
Mhm.
you're very eloquent in how you express it, and it's just a I don't know how anybody can just not be in awe of, to be in this process as early as you're in this process, to be handling it so gracefully, and to be that, to come on here, you don't know me, and to be
Mhm.
able to share openly. I mean, it's
Right.
very, very brave of you, and I commend you for it. I thank you for it, and I have that much more respect for you for doing it.
Right, of course. And it's just like as I was saying, like it's part of what I'm choosing to do with life. It's just like to share, like to be open. And I like to use my life as an experience as well. And it's just like I'm in this part of my journey where I'm practicing like trusting people, and I'm being like blown away with surprises. Like because we are also taught on not trust people, being open to the flow of life, like not that's another thing that we have to change, is just like not trusting people, thinking that everybody is a threat. It's not, like there are more good people out there than bad people that want to do bad things to you. So I'm just like that's another part of the experiment I'm doing now, just like trusting more, trusting life, trusting people, and going with the flow of life.
Yeah, I don't come from that world. At the end of the day, my experience is like you think everybody's going to screw you.
Hmm.
Everybody's looking for that angle. Everybody's got a motive. Everybody's got an agenda.
Hmm.
And if you look hard enough, you'll find it, but it's there.
Hmm.
And it's just exhausting.
Hmm. It
It's
is.
it's it's an exhausting way to live. I can be vulnerable now openly because I'm secure in who I am. Vulnerability came way late in life, man. You know, the whole purpose, you never showed fear and you never showed vulnerability.
Hmm.
Ever. ever, ever. Because the minute you do, you're getting burned.
Right.
That's just, I don't know where it is in the rest of the world, but that's definitely New York City.
Right.
And you lock that door every time you leave. You don't forget once.
Right.
Because you come back and everything's gone.
Right.
And nobody feels sorry for you. You didn't lock the door? What? What?
Served it. Right.
Yes. Because you're taught at a
Ask
very,
it.
very young age. And I'm just using small examples. And in those confines, we are vulnerable in our own way. But it's not vulnerable to as we are talking in this conversation. You know what I mean? It's just you got to be careful. And
Yeah.
so, but it's that's a whole nother journey of unbreaking the conditioning. So when we first met, I feel like I'm holding you hostage here. This is a long one. Wow. But it's just so valuable because, your story is just, it's amazing. In your everyday life right now, what are you doing currently entrepreneurially?
Right. I just started to be part of this team in the kombucha industry, and we are creating
Ah,
using locally grown, agroecologically grown food, bringing the producers together with us, and building community and educating people about the microbiome health and how food is important to keep us not only in shape but also the importance about having nutritious food and how this food is produced by our partners here to show people like these connections, to make people see how the production is connected to the producing of the kombucha, and then to the recycling, which we also are going to have like a agroforestry in our backyard, from where we are collecting the fruits to create our new kombuchas. And it's just like an entire experience, and also like creating this line of cosmetics as well based on kombucha. And it's going to be then the entire thing like a circular economy company, which we use every part, like nothing is wasted in the
right.
project.
And when do you plan on launching this?
This is already happening, and yeah. And as soon as the COVID situation eases, right, we are going to open our house, and people are going to be able to visit us and to have this kombucha experience and to understand how this circular economy works and all of that.
There's going to be a kombucha blowout soon.
Yeah.
And this is going to be local in Porto Alegre?
Alegre, yes. Here in our city.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I really wish you all great with that. I mean, that sounds like it's going to be a winner all the way.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. And it's going to be nice to interact with people and work on the educational part as well, which like I'm fascinated about. Not only
I know you are.
Yeah, I am.
Well, listen, Evie, I want to thank you so much. This has been a real treat, a real honor. I thank you for your generosity and your openness and your insight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The pleasure's mine, and hopefully we'll do this again real soon.
Yeah, I'm all in.
So am I. Namaste.
Good. Namaste. Thank you.